Want to look younger? Lose 5, 10, or even 20 years off your body without pills, without doctors, and without all that modern illusion of health? Then you need just one place, a swamp. Yeah, just an ordinary swamp. Mud, stench, mosquitoes. A place no normal person would willingly go. But there's a problem. 99% of people just won't make it there. Not because it's far, but because it's scary. Me, Orlov. And for more than 10 years, I've been studying places of power. And today, you'll find out why it's the swamp that can rejuvenate you, and why, most likely, you won't be able to handle it. Let's be honest. When someone says, I want to get younger, most of the time, they're not even lying to me. They're lying to themselves because they don't actually want rejuvenation. They want things to get a little easier, for the pain to go away, to have more energy, for their face to look fresher. They want their body to stop falling apart, for all of this to happen, but without pain, without fear, without any inner transformation. So basically, a person doesn't want rejuvenation. They want to comfortably stay the same person, just with a new body. But it doesn't work that way, because real rejuvenation isn't about cosmetics, jars of cream, pills, trendy IV drips, or even just a healthy lifestyle. Real rejuvenation is when the accumulated mistakes start to leave your body. All the things that have been clogging up your body for years. Fears, tension, junk, other people's emotions, other people's mental programs. All that junk you carry inside and have even started to think of as part of yourself. And this is where things get really interesting. There are places that don't just give you energy, but actually start to rebuild you. In a tough, deep way, right down to your core. And one of those places is a swamp. Yes, that very swamp you usually pass by. An average person will drive by and think, ugh, mud, rot, mosquitoes. What could possibly be valuable here? But there could be more value here than in a dozen expensive clinics. Because a swamp isn't just mud, it's a place where a power lies that can give your body back what it once lost. Look, you've been taught since childhood that swamps are bad, dirty, dangerous, unpleasant, and that it's better not to go near them. And that logic makes sense, because on the surface, a swamp looks like decay, like something dead, a place where everything is rotting, but that's just the surface. Because deep down, a swamp isn't about death, it's about beginnings. It's primordial matter, a state where energy hasn't yet taken shape, where there's no rigid structure, where anything can still become anything. Do you get the difference? A city's a frozen form. The house, that's a form. Your body is already a formed structure, but a swamp is what comes before form. It's like raw material you can mold into anything you want. And that's exactly why there's a resource there you won't find anywhere else. There's no rigid fixation, which means in that place you can rewrite, not just tweak or heal, but actually rewrite your state. And if you enter this field the right way, your body starts to remember what it was like before all the distortions. Before the stress, before the fear, before all the accumulated mistakes. And this is where the real reason for going there begins. Because the swamp isn't about comfort. It's about the chance to start over. Look deeper. There are crystals of power in the world. And I'm not talking about minerals from a store. It's not about buying a stone and suddenly becoming stronger. No. It's about energy nodes that hold together the very structure of space itself. In the swamp, it's not just a puddle with moss. It's a point where the two most basic, most intense spectrums are active. Black and red. These are the roots of the world tree. This is the foundation. It's everything your physical body is built on. Bones, blood, flesh, instincts, survival, sexual energy, life force. Now, here's an important point. Most people make the same mistake. They try to move upward in meditation, toward awareness, higher vibrations, spirituality. But at the same time, their foundation is empty. There's no support. Their roots aren't activated. And in the end, what happens? A person seems to be developing, but their body starts to fall apart. No energy, fatigue, irritability, illness. Their psyche starts to unravel. Why? Because without the red and black spectrum, nothing holds together. Not health, not money, not strength, not even life itself. And so the swamp, this is the place where these frequencies are turned up to the max. There are no filters there, no softness, no comfortable entry. There, it's straight to the basics. And if you end up there, you're not lifted up right away. Instead, they start rebuilding you from the ground up, right from your foundation, your bones, your blood, your instincts. And only after that do you even get a chance at real rejuvenation. Because rejuvenation, you see, isn't about your face, it's about returning to your body's original strength. And that strength lies down here, at the bottom. Now let's figure out why rejuvenation even happens in the first place. Because a lot of people get confused here. They think the body ages simply because time passes. But that's not true. The body ages because it accumulates errors. Every cell in your body is constantly dividing, renewing, and rebuilding itself. But it's not copying an ideal state. It copies the current state, and the current state is already distorted. Stress, fear, tension, other people's emotions, the news, worries, all of that. All your inner conflicts get recorded, and then they keep getting copied over and over again, and after years, you end up with a body that isn't old, but just really distorted. And this is where the swamp comes in. It works very simply. It doesn't heal, it doesn't improve, it wipes everything out, harshly and completely, like you're taking a system and hitting the factory reset button. And at that moment, the cell stops copying the distortions. It starts returning to its original template, to the state the body was supposed to be in from the beginning. And this is where things get really interesting. You don't actually get better, they just take away all the extra stuff from you. Everything that's built up, everything that's stuck to you, everything you've been carrying around for years. And your body starts working the way it always should have. This is what real rejuvenation is. Not adding something, but cleansing. Now let's get specific. There's a place where all of this gets amplified many times over. The border of 3 countries, Belarus, Russia, Ukraine. And there you'll find some of the most powerful swamps in Europe. Not touristy, not pretty, not for walks, but alive, ancient, and heavy with energy. And it's no coincidence that witches and sorcerers have lived there for centuries and still do. Because if you understand how power works, you go to where the strongest resources are. And that's exactly what's there. And there's another thing that hardly anyone talks about. There's classified information that people really don't like to make public. During World War I and World War II, strange things happened in those swamps. German equipment would just sink in entire columns. And it wasn't just a matter of getting stuck. It was as if the very space itself started working against them. There are stories that the machinery was struck, as if it was simply being burned up. And after a series of such losses, an order was given not to approach those areas, not to get closer than 50 kilometers. The losses were too great, the process is too mysterious. And it's important to understand, it's not just about these swamps, this is just one of the most powerful examples. Any ancient swamp, hundreds or thousands of years old, that hasn't been destroyed, drained, or killed by civilization, works in much the same way. It's just weaker in some places, and in others, like here, at its limit. And if you go in there, you're not stepping into mud. You're entering a system that's much older than you are. Now, the most important thing, you don't just walk into a swamp for no reason. Either it calls you, or you'll never go there, ever. And when I feel drawn there, it wasn't like, oh cool, I'll go check it out. No. Right away, I felt that this wasn't just a walk, this was an entry. And the first thing that kicks in is fear. A strange illogical fear. It's not about being sucked in by the swamp or getting lost. It's a deep fear, the kind that rises up from inside, like someone pressed a button. You start shaking, your body tenses up, your breathing changes, and the most interesting thing is, fears start coming up that you didn't even know you had. Old, forgotten, suppressed ones, phobias, images, thoughts. And at some point, you really start to feel uneasy, and your mind tells you, turn back. This is dangerous. You shouldn't be here. And this is the moment most people break down here. They take it as a sign not to go any further. but that's a mistake because this is actually the entrance. The swamp doesn't open up to you right away. First, it brings up everything inside you that doesn't match its power. All the distortions, all the tension, all your inner blocks, it shows you all of it with no sugarcoating, no gentleness, just brutally honest. And you have a choice. Either you fall back and stay in your old version of yourself, or you keep moving forward through the fear, through the tension, through the unknown. And if you make it through, there's a turning point, because fear, it's not a barrier, it's a filter, the first level of admission. And until you pass it, you simply won't be allowed any further. Not into the swamp, not into strength, not into real change. Before I got to the swamp, it took me a long time to get there. Just so you understand, we're talking about years here. I tried to make the trip 5 times, and every time I got turned back halfway there, or right at the border. And now I'm here. I rented a small house nearby, an old estate, pretty much on the border of this place. I went to bed, and this is where what you were brought here for actually begins. At first, everything is normal. The body's lying there, the mind drifts off, and then the vibration starts. First it's light, then it gets stronger, and then it completely takes over. And then it goes down to a strange bone, the skeleton, the joints. It feels like they start to move as if they're rotating inside. Skull, knees, pelvis, arms, everything. And it's not pain. It's like you're being taken apart and put back together again at the foundation level, at the level of your structure, and you have no control over it. You either trust the process or it sweeps you away. And this went on for hours. A deep transformation. No words, no explanations. Just pure work with the body. And then, morning, I was just thrown out of sleep at dawn. And the strangest feeling, like I was asleep and not asleep at the same time. Like I got a good night's sleep, and yet not really, but inside there's silence, and my body feels different. Lightness, freshness, a feeling like when I was 16, and you realize that during the night something happened, something that can't be undone. And this is where the fun begins, what most people would call an effect. I call it a result. After that night, the state was not just better, it was different. The body is light, the head is clear, the movements are fast. It's like a layer of time has been removed from you. Not a year, not 2, tens of years. And this is not a feeling of mood, it is physics. Skeleton, muscles, skin, blood. Everything works differently. Why? Because the bog works at the foundational level. It doesn't treat symptoms, it erases the error. That very accumulated cellular error, which builds up over years from thoughts, emotions, stress, and informational junk, the cell copies itself with distortion, a little worse with each cycle. And that's what we call aging. And the bog, it's like a purgatory. It gets rid of that junk, resets everything, and returns the cell to its original state, to its source code. And when that happens, the body starts to rebuild itself. Properly, without distortions. That's why after visiting powerful places of energy, people say, I feel younger. They're not lying, they just don't understand the mechanism. And the mechanism is simple. You return to your base state. And if you know how to work with it, you can repeat and amplify the effect. After that trip, I realized one thing. There's a level that almost no one talks about. And not because they don't want to, but because they can't. It's the level of magicians who work with the bog, with roots, with red and black purity, with what lies beneath all the familiar reality. These people don't go to seminars, they don't record courses, you don't see them. But they're the ones who truly work with the body, not through light, but through the base, through matter, through that very primal energy where form is created. And that's where a completely different level of healing begins. Not just smoothing out the aura or cleaning the field, but actually restoring, assembling, and rewriting it at the level where the cell hasn't even had a chance to make a mistake yet, where you can stop bleeding in minutes, close up injuries, bring back what seemed to be lost forever. And beyond that, even more. There are things people just don't talk about out loud. But if you understand how the body works, if you know how to hold your consciousness, if you've been through places like that, then at some point, access to transformation opens up, not metaphorical, but physical. when the body stops being a fixed form, when it obeys not habit, but will. And yes, in old traditions, this was called shape-shifting, but the point isn't to become a wolf. The point is that the body is a tool. And if you know how to work with the roots, you can change this tool. Deep, precise, without any unnecessary noise. And the swamp is one of the few gateways to this level. It's harsh, dangerous, but incredibly powerful. And now, the most important thing, if you've watched up to this point, you're already inside the process. Because topics like this don't catch random people. That means you already have a response inside you. That means you're already being drawn in. There's only one question left. Are you going to ignore it, or are you going to start working with it? Because places of power aren't about just going to check them out. They're a tool. Through them, you can restore your body, speed up processes, relieve overload, reset your state, and reach a whole new level of life. But there's a catch. Without understanding, you'll either get nothing or you'll get way too much. And that will break you, because the power is always greater than you are. And that's exactly why I wrote the book, The Secret Guide. Awaken the power of the Earth's ancient crystals and open the path to your true energy. This isn't theory, it's a manual. How to find places of power, how to understand which place is right for you, how to enter it without overloading yourself, how to read the signals, and how to take the energy instead of losing it. You'll start to notice things you never saw before. Why do you feel good in some places but lose energy in others? And why are you drawn to certain spots? And most importantly, what should you do about it? A QR code will appear soon. You can scan it and get the book. There's also a link in the description. Because if you already feel drawn to it, ignoring it is the most costly mistake you can make.